old man. His hair was peppered with gray, unwashed and unkept for years. His face was cracked with years of knowledge, his lips curved downward, weighed down by the constant indignation of his fellow man. He stooped under his woolen blanket, possibly his only real possession. He wore shoes that were once white, but now were caked with the grime and muck of the city streets. Thirst. A desert is a stretch of land that sees little to no annual rainfall. That's not to say it doesn't rain, just that the rain is so sparse and infrequent that it can't be measured annually, or so I'm told. Have you ever seen what the rain does to a desert? The ground is so cracked and dry that the water runs right over the top of it. Flash floods are a serious problem in deserts. Gulches and dry riverbeds become walls of water that wipe out everything in their path. Then something magical happens in just a few short days. Green sprouts everywhere. That's kind of what it's like to love someone who hasn't been loved in a long time. Their heart becomes a desert, barren of love and just wasteland of emotion. Then, come along the rain, some love down on them. The desert heart becomes so overwhelmed with emotion that it appears more damaged than good. But just like the real desert, a desert heart will start to blossom and bloom under a good shower of love. So rain down on them, rain down your love. It's helping even if it looks like it isn't. And finally, a quote. Wherever there is a human being, there's an opportunity for kindness, and that was by Seneca. And then the last entry, called Early Morning Rituals. A dull aroma wafts from the mug. The muddy, almost black water awakens my spirits. I sit with the morning sun on my face, blanket over shoulders, slippers under feet. The birds sing, dance, and chirp. Early birds do get the worm. The blue-gray smoke swirls off the cigarette. I inhale sharply, my lungs fill with the poison. Hold, 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 and then release. 1 second closer to death. One more tingle to my fingers. I should quit. So that was 3 entries that I wrote at various times. The first one, Old Man, is about an old man that I saw in Seattle.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you where you saw him.
Oh, it's downtown Seattle on, I think, King Street and 2nd. And he just had one of those old woolen, gray, gross blankets that are just so nasty looking. But that was like his only possession.
That was me, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was me. And don't be dissing on my blanket. Okay, it's the only thing I had.
The second one was Thirst, and that was just kind of a metaphor between like the desert and somebody who hasn't been loved in a while. And then the third one was the early morning rituals, which are very important to me because I like my coffee and I like my cigarettes in the morning. This is the Minimal Effort. I'm Bruce. This is George. Today we have Travis with us. I was drinking a Heavy Seas Imperial Stout, but I finished it before we started recording, and now I'm drinking a Heavy Seas Powder Monkey Pale Ale.
So apparently there was no answers in the bottle on that.
Not in this one, but I've got a whole case of them.
Let's see what we can find.
Let's see where the answers are.
Yeah.
So what are you drinking, George?
I'm drinking a questionable beer, and I only say questionable not because of the brand. It's Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. It's a classic, and it's pretty okay, but it's questionable because I didn't look at the date or anything, but when I picked it up off the shelf at the store, there was dust on top of all the bottles, so I feel like either someone knew something about this beer that I didn't, or it's just been there for a while.
It's probably been there for a while.
Yeah. How about you, Travis?
Mine's got an Anchor on it. Anchor's steam beer from San Francisco. Tastes as good as the last one.
Nice.
That's good.
So, 3 little short pieces that were snippets of imagery, kind of describing what's going on around you and how you're internalizing it.
Right.
I thought that was really interesting because a lot of times, you always talk about internal stuff that's going on when you write.
Yeah.
And you talk about, your perspective. But this is less about what you actually think and more about like what you're seeing and how you see it.
Yeah, and what I actually saw. So, what was that? That morning rituals one. I tried to illustrate just what it was like to have a quiet morning with that cup of coffee in your hand and that cigarette as well. Because like the caffeine, as soon as it hits your blood and it awakens you, and the nicotine too, and it just kind of numbs your fingers and all that. It's the best morning. Best morning after
I'm
a
not
good
ready
long
for
night.
this. I need to feel numb. Here we go.
Here we go.
You know,
Hit the ground
taking
running.
shots in the morning is frowned upon.
Yeah.
Whatever establishment you intend on going to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had mornings where like I looked at the bottle of rum and I was like, that looks like a good idea.
That's why they make Kahlua. You know that.
Yeah, right. You just spike your coffee with it.
Yeah.
Or your Baileys.
Yeah, Mondays are the reason that coffee was invented. I'm convinced, 'cause you
And I
always-
agree that Tuesdays were the reasons that rum in the morning and Kahlua was invented.
Yeah, because you're just like, well, it's just not going to get better from here, except that I'll be closer to Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the second one that you wrote, Thirst, you're talking about a desert.
Yeah.
Was this like a specific desert that inspired it? Or
Yeah, the Sonoran Desert down in Arizona. It's right out of Sierra Vista. In fact, Sierra Vista is in the Sonoran, just outside of Tucson. It's one of the smaller deserts in Arizona. And I was living there for a while, and one of the things that I noticed, or that I thought of, because I'd never lived in a desert before, was like it was just a barren wasteland of nothing. And then when I got there, I just noticed that there was so much like fauna there, like so many different birds and lizards and bugs and just creepy crawlies and all these other things. And then like the plant life as well is just a stark contrast of what I'm used to in the Pacific Northwest. So, and then I was there during monsoon season, so all the rain would come down, and then 3 days later there's grass just everywhere, and it doesn't look like a desert anymore.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, I'm not a fan of the desert. Every desert type place that I've ever lived, it was so uninspiring that I just didn't want to go back.
Yeah.
But listening to you talk about it like that almost makes me want to think about
Right.
liking a desert.
And I've been in many places of Arizona. Sierra Vista was one of them, and then Flagstaff, Arizona, was another place that I've been, as well as Phoenix. But Flagstaff is
Completely different.
completely different.
Yeah.
Like it's night and day to southern Arizona. Like as you're going up north in Arizona towards Flagstaff, you go right through Red Rocks, and like it's just like sheer cliffs of stratified rock and cliff face, and it's really beautiful in a certain sort of like nothing's there sort of way.
Huh.
Yes, it's almost like being on the surface of Mars, or how I would imagine it would be.
Oh,
An
wow.
ashtray.
Yeah, like an ashtray.
Yeah, it's very dry. It's hot. There's nothing but like things around you, and you're just sitting there.
Nothing but butts.
Yeah, like all right, yeah, I know how that feels now.
Yeah, and the color, but the colors is really what struck me.
That's the only thing.
Yeah, it really is.
The only thing good about Arizona is the colors.
Quality.
Yeah. And that it's warm in the wintertime.
Yeah, a lot of snowbirds go down there to winter. So
Yeah. One of my landlords used to go down there, and I was just like, why Arizona? Of all the warm places you could go to,
Florida.
Yeah. So what the desert thing reminded me of was a book. I don't remember who wrote it, and I don't even know if the official title is Anti-Fragile, but it's about anti-fragile. And I'm not plugging the book. Once again, we're not sponsored by anybody.
Wink.
We're sponsored by 16 followers.
Thank you. So this guy wrote a book about the concept of anti-fragile, and in it he talks about this. So this idea is if you had to give me a word for the opposite of fragile, what would it be?
Robust. Stout.
Okay.
I'm drawing a blank now.
Right.
That's the extent of my anti-fragile.
So the
words.
definition of like what makes something fragile is that when pressure is applied to it,
Yeah.
what happens?
It breaks.
It breaks, right? So robust isn't a correct opposite, because if you apply pressure to it, nothing really happens. It just kind of doesn't break.
Right.
So
So a
the
diamond
opposite-
is what you're looking for.
So maybe, I don't know. Do diamonds get stronger when you hit them?
Well, that's how they become diamonds, right? Because they're
Right, from
pressurized.
coal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah. So he kind of talks about that sort of thing, where the opposite of fragile would be anti-fragile, where when pressure is applied, it becomes stronger. So our bones, human bones, are anti-fragile, because when they break
They calcify.
and they come back, they're stronger than they were before. And he applies that to like all facets of life, like the human condition, going through hard times and coming out of them on the other side, and things
Yeah.
like that. So when you were reading the desert thing, it reminded me of all the plant life and stuff in the desert, as much as I hate the desert,
Uh-huh.
it's still impressive that like you can find a cactus in the desert that's not just growing and thriving, but if you open it up, there's water inside.
Right.
And so, where'd you get that fucking water? You know, and
Yeah.
why are you hoarding it?
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Like, I think Arizona should be pissed off at the cactus. Why does Arizona suck so bad? Because of the cactus. Get rid of them. It's not a
Hogging
plant
all the
you
water.
just
That's
pick
why it
balls
becomes
of and
desert.
make things out of. It's just like, ow, this hurts. You've got all the water. No. All right. So now we know who to blame is the cactus.
Yeah.
Or cacti or yeah.
Cactuses.
So you felt like writing about the desert because
Yeah.
it just it was one specific day
Yeah.
that you felt compelled to.
Yeah, and and then I had known a friend who was going through a hard time, and I just kind of, those two things just kind of married really well together.
Yeah. Humanity meets nature.
Yeah.
And then the friend that was going through a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean, without getting into specifics, I guess, what was the situation that?
She had just gotten through a really bad breakup, divorce, whatever, and just going through I can't be loved, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, just give some time. Someone will find it. And she's like, well, I don't even feel I can be loved. And then I was like, it's just like raining down on a desert heart. Just like, give it time.
Give it time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Time is quite a thing. Yeah.
Heals all wounds, from what I understand.
Yeah. It's kind of like, this sounds like a callous thing to say about that whole situation, but even a stopped clock is
It's
right
correct twice a day, yeah.
And I feel like, even the desert blooms once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
So. And at least some people love being in the desert, so everything's lovable in its own way. So the last one that you wrote, rituals, coffee. And I like that one because I have a similar kind of routine where, like, if I'm just a zombie until I get coffee in the morning. Mm-hmm. And I like that morning cigarette too because it's kind of this moment of repose before the world starts moving with all its tiny pieces.
You basically kind of take time out of your day to start your day by not starting your day.
Right.
Yeah. Starting your day with a smoke break.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm not ready for this yet. The world's still going on, by the way. It is.
Right.
You're not the one going on right now. It's just like, wait a minute, not ready for this. No.
Step out for a second. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so what that makes me think of is during the week there's always like no matter what your job is, what you're doing, unless you're a hermit or something like that, like in American culture especially, and a lot of different cultures around the world, life is just full of noise.
Yeah.
And I mean noise literally and metaphorically. Like there's noise happening around you, but there's also noise like other things weighing on you at work. For instance, you're just like, I have to deal with this, but I don't really care about this that much.
Right.
But it's just it's just something that's adding to the noise of your everyday.
Yeah, that's not just work. That can be everything.
And that can be
that's-
life. That can be relationships with other people outside. It can be work. It can be anything. And it's just that's why we smoke. That's that's why we take those moments. That's why on the weekends sometimes it's good to like have a party or have get-togethers and barbecues and stuff like that. Sometimes it's just nice to just sit by yourself and just be like,
Yeah.
Yes.
I do
Absolutely.
that every Friday.
yeah, every Friday.
Every Friday.
Yeah, that's good. So when you wrote that bit right there, what was
The coffee
your
one?
throne setting? Yeah, the coffee one.
A porch, actually. So I used to live in this little blue house in a city called Renton in Washington State, and my porch looked over the street, and I'd sit there on my stoop, smoke some cigarette, drink my coffee, and I'd be in my bathrobe, and my slippers,
Awesome.
with a blanket, and it was just and for people who live in the Pacific Northwest, how our falls are, our autumn, and it's like that perfect like crisp, cool air where like it's cold enough to where you don't want to be out there in like something like this, but you have like your blanket and you're bundled up. It's like the best
you have a
feeling
reason
ever.
to cozy, but it's not like Minnesota
Minnesota
winter.
winters, yeah.
Yeah, cold.
Where you're trying to survive.
Yeah, where you like spit into the air and then it's ice before it hits the ground. Yeah.
But bet that's got to be good for kids, though, right? Like they could probably
Spitting?
believe that they're a superhero. He's like, watch this, poof, and then it turns the ice.
That would be,
Yeah, that would be awesome. I think as a
That's
kid.
true.
It's a
I've got
self-esteem thing.
superpowers.
Yeah.
Watch this. Yeah.
Well, Jimmy, I can do that too.
Oh man, we all have superpowers. All of a sudden, nobody is
Now
special
Oprah's
anymore.
in charge of giving people superpowers. You've got superpowers, you got superpowers, but we all got the same one. Yay! All right, yeah.
Yeah. So, did you intentionally write them that short?
Those ones, yeah. I was just starting out the blog, so I was just playing with like short little sketches, I guess, like slices of life is how I started it. And then I wrote a longer one. I was like, oh, I kind of like that one. And then they just kind of progressively got longer and longer as I carried on the blog,
Yeah.
which link is in the description.
You know, it's,
Before I forget.
yeah, and mine will be, if it's not already. So the thing that I liked about the Smokey one the most is you kind of walk through it like a narration, like I do this, I do that,
Yeah.
blah 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 blah, and it doesn't really hit you like an inner monologue, but then at the very end you're like I should quit, you know, and suddenly you're talking to yourself and like think, you know,
Yeah. Well, and those are, I mean, all three of us smoke, and I know because I go through it all the time. Like, man, I spent so much money on cigarettes, I smoked so many packs, blah blah blah. I should quit, right? Everybody who smokes goes through that, and then something happens. You're like, I need a cigarette. I need to go do that breathing exercise. I need that nicotine hit. I need. And ultimately, it's this vicious circle of I should quit. I can't quit right now because of all this stress and all this and that and this and that.
Yeah, I've got lots of excuses to keep
Right.
smoking. You know, I'm trying to help my lungs be anti-fragile.
Right.
Right? I'm trying
Man,
to
I like it.
help them
I like the smoke.
get stronger.
Right.
Yeah, I like it for the reasons that you're talking about too.
Right.
It's like you have that moment, you know, to yourself, or maybe you're having a conversation even, you know, but
Yeah.
you're not doing anything important. That's like the purpose of a smoke break is you're like, this is time away. You
Yep.
have something to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess we're not advocating smoking
Right.
necessarily.
No, don't
Yeah.
do that. Don't start because it's hard to
But,
quit.
It is.
It is.
But I'm sure that there's other things that aren't smoking that you know people have like similar experiences with.
Right. You know,
heroin.
heroin. Yeah. That's always a good
You know,
escape.
I really like the way it makes me feel in the morning. You know, when I'm sitting outside my blue house, I don't know why it should be blue because that's the way I feel, and the house is sad as well. So, you know, you sit out there. They get to sit out there all day. Don't heroin addicts sit out all day on the porch? Isn't that?
Yeah, but I have responsibilities.
Oh, well, okay, all right. Well,
to pay for my
we're not
heroin.
recommending that either.
Yeah, please
right.
don't do heroin.
I mean, maybe what's something else? Like Twinkies
Yoga.
in moderation. Yoga. Okay.
Yoga.
Twinkies.
Twinkies in moderation.
Yeah, you know, because that's right up there with heroin. You've got heroin and then Twinkies is just like right there. Where does it really fall?
You know, there's got to be that guy that's got like a desk job somewhere, and he's just like, I just can't look at this screen anymore. And he walks outside for his Twinkie break 3 times a day, 15 minutes. You know, and it's in his contract. You know?
Counting butterflies and chasing
Because he's a
planes.
union
Yeah.
worker, he gets those Twinkie breaks.
Right.
I guess so.
So we're at the 2-minute warning right now.
Okay.
Have you written other short things like this since then?
There's a couple of haikus on there. One of them references Game of Thrones. That's about it, though. There's not a lot more slices of life, but it is something I'm looking at getting back into. Is writing the shorter ones again. Absolutely.
You like the shorter ones?
Yeah, they take less time.
To read or to write?
All of the above.
Okay.
Way to go, Sherlock. The shorter ones take less time. Ooh, I think he's onto something.
Yeah.
Well, and sometimes that's all you need. It doesn't
Okay.
have to be long. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna take a smoke break.
And when we come back,
Right, I'm gonna
George
take
and
a Twinkie break, yeah.
George and Travis will have a song for us.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And we're back. So George and Travis have a song for us. Take it away.
Come on, baby, just touch me. You know you make me crazy. Friday night and I'm sitting all alone without my baby. Where are you, baby? I'm parched putting diggers into this stone, and I think that maybe if I sing this song, then time will fly away, but not today. I'm so thirsty I could die. So thirsty I could die. Come on, baby, just tell me, why are you so moody? Thirsty I could die. Thirsty I'm so dry. Come on, baby, just touch me. You know you make me crazy, crazy. Oh, no, no, da, 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 I could die, so thirsty I could die. Come on, baby, just tell me, why you so moody, baby? Sit close to me, and darling, I'm so dry. Fill my cup and wake me up.
So I couldn't hear like half of that.
Oh, I know.
If I pulled this out, or if you pulled something out, you were in the moment.
Yeah, no. It
That's
did
fine.
like a feedback thing in the middle. It was just like, oh no, and I fixed it, but then it kind of went wonky. But it recorded all of your bass, so as long as you were still playing.
I was still playing. I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
wasn't sure what was going on. I don't know if a lot of folks. Hold on here. Ish.
All right, now a quick readjustment.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna turn the mic.
So I don't know if a lot of people know, like playing bass, like back home. If you just have nothing hooked up to it, you can't hear anything.
Yeah.
So it's just like, oh, I wonder if I'm making noise. Sure.
Listen to these strings rattle.
Yeah.
Give me 2 seconds. I gotta turn the bass off actually, and then. Yeah. Now we're back. Yeah.
All right.
So a song's called Thirsty.
That's true.
Clearly it's not about being thirsty.
Well, I mean, it is.
Obviously. Obviously it is.
So it's kind of like when I took the desert and I married it to a different analogy of somebody's heart. You're taking the concept of being thirsty, the physical need of needing hydration or whatever, and equating it to the thirst of needing somebody, anybody.
Somebody.
Anybody.
A little bit. I mean, so I went and visited Jordan one time, which was a great experience.
Jordan the country.
Jordan the
Yes.
country.
Not
yeah.
my neighbor.
Not your neighbor.
from 15 years ago.
And it was great, but Jordan is a desert.
Right.
And as good a time as I had there, it was very dry.
Right.
And the water is not as plentiful, So there were a lot of times I was just really thirsty, and so the whole reason I started writing that song is because I was just wandering around going, I'm so thirsty I could die, because I was really thirsty, And then like towards the end of that trip, I was just like, you know what, I'm kind of here by myself, and I'm kind of lonely, So it's not even necessarily like
now the innuendo comes in, right?
Well, it doesn't, not even innuendo necessarily. It's just that like I was just like, wow, it'd be cool to like hang out with anybody, and like do stuff and have a bonfire, like do regular American things, And
Right.
I don't mean it. I'm not talking bad about Jordan at all. I'm just saying like it got pretty solitary there for a while.
Yeah, especially as an American in a foreign culture that you're not familiar with. Yeah, I get that. So, I also noticed the setup that you're using to record here.
Yeah.
This is the minimal effort. You've got your iPhone and your computer, and then whatever this is, and then Travis on bass here. Why don't we talk about what you have on your phone that allows you to do basically the rest of the band?
Well, through the magic of technology, I was able to like literally today, before we did this episode, I knew Travis was going to be playing bass, which was awesome, by the way, and added a whole lot.
What?
Like I never get to. Yeah, I normally it's just me and the guitar, and it's like when the bass is there, it makes a huge difference.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so today I was playing around on like GarageBand for the iPhone, not sponsored.
Shameless plug.
And I figured out that you could like lay all this stuff out and like plan the whole song, and I was just like, wow, what if I just like do that, and then I can run it through this little speaker, and we'll just see how it
This little
sounds.
$20 speaker off of Amazon.
It didn't do too bad. Yeah. So I mean, we'll see how it sounds in post. But I was pretty happy with it. It was pretty good.
Oh yeah, it sounded great. I mean, I couldn't hear the bass because I'm not plugged in.
Right.
But
It doesn't matter.
apparently
It
neither
doesn't
could
matter
you.
anymore. You're on your own. All right.
Yeah, so that's the story behind that song, and it just kind of turned. It's like a surface deep song that goes maybe a half a step deeper.
Right.
There's not a whole lot to read into because I was just like, man, I'm literally thirsty.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
Right. Yeah.
And then I was lonely, and then I was just like, this song is kind of nice. Kind of grooves a little bit. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do like to write drinking songs in general.
Because you have a lot of them.
I've got-
you have a few of them that
I've got
heard.
several of them, and I'm assuming every one of them will be on this podcast at some point.
And I've forgotten half of them because
Yeah.
I'm drinking while I'm writing my drinking songs.
But because there's been in my family, my like past family, like the ancestors, but they were like a generation or two ago. There was like alcohol problems and things like that, and so it's always been kind of a topic, not an issue necessarily, but like a topic growing up.
Right.
I'm talking about drinking, and as me and my brothers kind of came of age and started drinking. Then we kind of had to learn the hard way, like what responsible drinking means.
Moderation.
And, what moderation is, and like why you drink.
Right.
Right. When you're 21 years old, you start drinking because you're like, I'm 21.
I'm 21.
I can,
I
so
can
I
do
will.
this now.
I'm just gonna go whole hog into a bottle of Crown Royal.
I broke a table on my 21st birthday for that exact reason, drinking too much and going into a bar for the first time and like, it's my birthday. And they're like, here, have an adios, go for them. Have a trash can, have a whatever, and it's just like drink after drink after drink. And then I suddenly realize I'm waking up in somebody else's bedroom and I'm just like, I have no idea where I'm at or how I got here.
How did I get here?
What happened?
Yeah.
You broke a table. What?
Was anybody playing pool at the time?
No, yeah, exactly.
That's
How did you break the
impressive.
table?
Yeah, it was a pool table?
So, no, I don't think it was a pool table. It was
That would have been, wow.
right. Yeah. Third party telling me that I guess I climbed up on this table and was trying to dance on it with the music going on, and one thing led to another, and I was on the floor and the table was broken, and then they kicked me out. I guess.
They kicked you out.
Yeah,
They asked me to leave aggressively.
yeah.
After
I
feeding you like copious amounts of alcohol.
Yeah. Here, have as much alcohol as you want because it's your 21st birthday, but don't mess up.
But
Okay.
Yeah, that never
Okay.
works out.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm
You
21.
know that
my
tolerance
my
that you
brain's
don't
not
have?
fully developed. And You're
Yeah.
asking me to make smart decisions on alcohol. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
When I turned 21, I went down to the liquor store. Well, I had my buddy drive me down to the liquor store, and I had this Buick. What was it? Buick. Something.
Cadillac?
Royal,
Skyhawk,
something. Yeah.
or-
Yes, it might as well be Skyhawk. So I had a Buick Skyhawk, and we drove down, got a bottle of Crown Royal. I was just like, "Give me a liquor, please," and he handed me a bottle of Crown.
One brown or clear.
And I was like, "Here is money." And I went back out to the car, and I had some cigars that I had bought. They were JFRs, really good cigar. And so we got into the car, started driving back. It was only like not even a 10-minute drive. And we lit up these cigars in the car, didn't roll the windows down. And we're driving. We're 5 minutes into a 10-minute drive, and we stop at a stop sign. And I'm just like, "Don't move!" And I open up the door, and I go over to the stop sign, and I just like throw up all over the bottom of this stop sign before I even had a sip on my 21st birthday.
Oh, wow.
And then I was so like dehydrated and lightheaded after that I got back to my apartment, and I poured myself like this much of the Crown, and then I just passed the fuck out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good
That's
time.
interesting. Yeah, it sounds like a good time.
What was your 21st like?
I think I remember. All right, yeah, I don't. I have no idea.
You probably had drinks.
Yeah, it was very interesting because I wrestled a bear. Well, arm wrestled a bear. you know.
Like a literal bear?
Yeah, bare-chested.
Oh,
Well,
bear. Oh,
yeah.
right, right.
I barely
okay.
won.
Oh, bear.
But yeah.
You got
Thank
me.
It was a
you.
Kodiak
Yeah,
moment.
so
Oh,
excited. Yeah.
Jesus. A Kodiak moment.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that was my 21st.
That was a long con pun. That was a good setup.
Yeah.
That was okay.
All right. Well, then there we go. Yeah.
So what was the next best time you had after your 21st?
Every time's a good time.
Every time's a good
Yeah.
time.
Anytime you can have.
That's a good way to look at
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
So as we were growing up, kind of muddling our way through life, we talked about, I think, living life by Braille.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Boy, do I have the bruises.
Feeling things out. You know?
Yeah.
So there's this quote by G.K. Chesterton that I came across a few years back that I love. Essentially, well, here it says, drink because you're happy, but never because you're miserable. Never drink when you are wretched without it, or you will be like the gray-faced drinker in the slum. But drink when you would be happy without it, and you will be like the laughing peasant of Italy. Never drink because you need it, for this is irrational drinking, the way to death and hell. But drink because you do not need it, for this is irrational drinking, and the ancient health of the world. Essentially, he's just saying, drink because you can, not because you need to.
Right.
You know, and I think that's kind of like the big distinction is like I associate, because of the way I was brought up and the way that our family dynamic is now, like I'm the second of 9 children, and most of us are, well, half of us are old enough to
You got
drink.
9 children.
Yeah,
Are you a Mormon or a Foreman?
Neither. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, my parents are pretty amazing.
Oh, I guess so.
Yeah,
Got
so
some stamina as well.
So we hang out. So we hang out at family parties, get together, stuff like that. And,
Right.
And we drink, you know. But it's like it's in such a familial context that the positive connotations that I grew up with in terms of drinking have always outweighed any kind of negative.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I grew up around alcohol too. My father he brews as a hobby. I guess he's really good at it. And then he's branched out from brewing beer to making things like hard cider, moonshine, brandy, and other alcohols. And so I grew up around it, and I didn't have that natural, like, I just turned 21, I'm just going to go balls to the wall.
Yeah.
Unless if they're feeding me alcohol. But,
Right.
like, you know, I never had that desire to, like, sneak alcohol or anything like that.
Right, because you grew up in a kind of, well, permissive might be the wrong word, but
Generally accepting, I guess.
Yeah, socially acceptable environment,
Right.
I
Right.
guess.
yeah,
That's what
yeah,
we
and it's
call
just
it.
part of the culture of your family,
Yes.
you know. And like
Being
my mom
alcoholics,
brews
you know.
beer.
The culture of the family. Yeah.
My mom brews beer too.
Yeah.
And the last one that she made was a stout called Mother's Milk.
Right.
You know, and I think that it like most things in life, like smoking, like any other thing that you could indulge in as a form of release. You know, like for some people that's just social situations in general. Like, oh my gosh, I need a break from everything. I just gotta go
Right.
be with some people. You know.
Go to the gym, go hang out with friends, people dance.
Yeah.
You know, I guess.
Yeah, too much of anything is a bad thing. You know, like, and you can get tired of it.
And burnt out on it.
And
Yeah.
burnt out on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even, you know, peanut butter. Like, I love peanut butter. But if I ate like a whole thing of peanut butter, or 5 or 6 or 10 by myself, I'd probably get tired of peanut butter.
Maybe.
Or feel sick.
Yeah, and probably couldn't tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
Because of the roof of your mouth.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be able to open my mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're almost at the 2-minute warning here. Any last thoughts?
No. Except that, what's that Latin term? In vino veritas, there's truth in wine, or in wine there's truth.
Oh, yes.
And it's yeah.
You want to open that up? Open that up for discussion? Let me tell you how I feel.
But people drink, and they have a tendency to be more
Honest? Yeah.
vocal.
Yeah. There's only
Both.
two types of honest people. There's toddlers. There's people that just opened some brews.
That's right.
it.
Toddlers and drunks.
Toddlers will tell on your ass. Watch them.
But yes, so, I think because of that, humanity has embraced a certain way in alcohol, because we do bond over drinking. You know, like when you have a time out with the guys, what do? You go to the bar and you drink. You know, you go to the pool hall and you drink. Like that's what we bond over: drinking and smoking and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get things off your chest, and
Yeah.
that's the thing with being honest. And people, you know, I think they complain. I don't listen, but I still get invited. You know, so there's that. But I'm pretty sure that's what people do. You know, they just like to get things off their chest and
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know?
It's like smoke breaks. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
Like, it's that chance to step away. Well, it's different, I guess. Anyway, we're gonna take a smoke break.
Right.
And after that, we're gonna talk to Travis
Oh boy.
about him.
You asked for it.
Buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride. Oh, we're back. Excuse me. We're back. Again, this is the minimal effort, and as always, we turn our third segment over to our guest, which today we have Travis.
Bass player extraordinaire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I showed you that song yesterday,
Yeah.
and today, you know, I mean, it's not a complicated song, I guess.
Oh no,
but, you know,
it's fairly easy. You know.
Yeah.
It's a minimal effort,
it's
I guess, is what you would call it.
Shameless plug.
yeah, it worked out well.
Yeah. I don't know. I like playing music. It's fun. Playing with the right people is even more fun.
That's true. Yeah, I've definitely been in situations like that where, you know, you want to play music with someone, or I'm sorry, someone wants to play music with you,
Right.
but you're on 2 different sheets of music.
Yeah.
and you're like, well, I want to do this, they want to do that, and it's just like, okay, yeah, I'll call you. Don't call me.
Yeah, don't call me. I'll call you.
Yeah.
We'll be in touch.
Yeah. I mean, it's not always like that, and even then, it's kind of like, it's not that they're bad at music necessarily. Maybe they are,
Well,
but
no, that's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
Like you can have people that you like to play music with, and then there's like people that are great. You're like, oh, I want to play music with them. Then you find out they're kind of douchey. You know, it's just like everything's about me. You know.
yeah. So it's
and-
like artistic differences versus personality differences.
Yeah, yeah, and
And
it's
you gotta have both.
yeah,
Yeah.
Especially when people are, because music people take it really seriously. They're like, oh wow, this is what I really like. They're passionate about it. You know.
Wouldn't it because
No.
it would be because you spend so much time on your craft and formulating who you are musically, right? So you don't really want somebody to come in and shit on that or something, you know?
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah. So it can be difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like so finding a musician that jives in the same way that you do seems as rare as
Yeah.
finding your soulmate. Because like without taking away from that other person, it's like, if you guys are just marching to the beat of two different drums, it's like, we could try to make this work, but should we?
Yeah, really, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, people take it personal too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You look at something like the Beatles, man, I'm sure they had their fair share of like, they were together for how long, and I'm sure they got real used to each other
Right.
after a while, but
Yeah.
there's always growing pains in any relationship.
Right.
But the way that they just kind of jived and they all added just enough to everything that they did, it was just
Right.
Yeah.
goals. I'm a big fan of the Beatles.
Yes,
Well,
you've stated that
They,
before.
yeah. Well, they made a lot of money doing that too. Like
Right.
it's just like it's like a job. It's just like, well, I can stand this dude for a couple more months, because we're making a lot of money. I'm happy,
Yeah.
But
So how long have you been playing bass?
I don't know. Maybe around 18, I guess. 17, 18. Yeah.
So
started late.
years.
Yeah.
What drew you to the bass?
I had
Two less strings.
Yeah, two less strings,
Strings.
and usually bass players are taller, they have bigger hands to use or play bass, and it's just like, why can't a short guy do this? Other than Dee Dee Ramone,
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't know. It's just fun. It's fun. It's a lot different, and at the time everybody was playing like electric guitar. Everybody wanted to play electric guitar. I'm like, basses are hard to find, drummers are hard to find. But anyway, everybody plays guitar.
Yeah.
Everybody plays guitar, so that's another thing that, you just kind of fit the bill, It's just like, well, what good is trying to jam out with your buddies when you got 6 people sitting around a circle with a bunch of guitars.
A bunch of electric guitars.
Yeah. I'm like, this isn't Slipknot. What the hell is going on?
Right.
You know what I mean? We don't need 13 people involved in this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the bass is like incremental. I mean, I'm sorry, it's essential for most things. I mean,
Well, it
You
lays
don't-
down the bass line.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
it's
you
the
don't
rhythm.
always need a bass line
And-
necessarily, but when the bass line is there, it makes a huge difference. And people
Absolutely.
follow the bass. In a band, like in high school, when we were in jazz band, they were just like, listen to the bass. Because the drummer follows the bass.
Yeah, it's the whole rhythm section, so that's what
Yeah.
And it can be simple as anything. A lot of bass lines that people tend to like, they're the easiest ones.
Mm-hmm.
They are.
It's because we're all simple-minded people that have a short attention span, and
Yeah, I think so.
Something to talk
I feel
about.
like we can talk about
We're
that
all
some other
simple-minded
time.
people.
That's why our podcasts are only an hour long.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting point, though, is simple bass lines,
Yeah.
right? They're the ones that like kind of catch on because they're easy to remember, and you can just kind of play those 3 notes over
Yeah,
and over in
that-
your head.
exactly.
Right, but as a bass player, it's different because then you're just playing 3 notes.
Yeah.
Over and over and over
It's
again.
just like, wow, that guy's really good. I'm like, no, I'm not.
He's playing those 3
Yeah,
notes.
yeah, you have no idea how easy this is.
But you're a
it's,
stretch further than that. I gave you chords for the song.
Yeah.
And we went through it a few times, and then you were able to kind of come up with your own thing for it.
Yeah,
And
just add to it. Like, well, that's with everybody that plays music. They all have their own style, and they all, you know, and they don't like being bored with anything. It's just like, here, do this. I'm like, I'm sorry, this isn't, you know, a Sunday afternoon in church. I'm not doing this.
Right.
You know, I'm not taking a, you know, something from the hymns and trying to rock it out. You know.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know. But yeah.
So what is your favorite thing to play then? On bass or whatever.
I like doing my own stuff, really.
Mhm.
I'm like, I think that's, you know, where you get your personality or originality from, you know. And you'll notice that with musicians here and there, people that have been, you know, trained since toddlers or something like that, you know, they stick to the script. So in order to find like a new sound or something that adds us something different, and it could be any musician you have in a band, that's what gives it its originality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, bass question. What is your opinion on Bella Fleck and why?
I don't even know who that is.
Okay.
Well, there's no why to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? Because I don't care. You know, I'm not really up to date on a lot of things. I'm not. You know,
He's an older guy. He's really good.
Okay.
And he doesn't just play bass, but he is a good bass player.
Oh,
And a lot
okay.
of bass players like know who he is, and I only know of him from talking to bass players.
Oh,
But I
okay.
would not have known about him if otherwise. So I'm
Yeah.
in the same boat as you, you know. But you should check him out, Bella Fleck.
Okay.
Like Bella, like beautiful in Italian, and then Fleck, like I think it's actually Bella Fleck in the Fleck tones, maybe.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know, but he does some crazy stuff on the bass that you wouldn't believe.
Oh,
And,
okay.
and I really hope that I'm getting his name right, because this is all recorded now, and if I'm getting his name wrong, then I'm doing it wrong. It's all hearsay.
Well, there's plenty of bass players. I'd say my favorite is probably Matt Freeman. I don't know if you know who Matt Freeman is.
I don't.
Matt Freeman. Well, he plays in a punk band. I don't know if we're allowed to. We can just say.
Yeah, we can name the band.
Like
Yeah,
Rancid.
we're not
Rancid.
playing their
That dude is
music.
phenomenal. Like the way that he plays and as fast as he can do it, a lot of people take away from that. You know, and like just because it's not your sound doesn't mean that this person should be overlooked.
I agree.
You know,
Yes,
You know,
I definitely agree.
and that's another thing with like being simple with things. Like a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, Flea's awesome. Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers is awesome." Is he awesome? Actually, yes, he is. But then like if you listen to like some of their popular songs, that stuff's easy to play. You know?
Right.
Like, oh, and plus he did it naked. Da 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 da. You know, like who cares? You know. I mean, he didn't get arrested for playing. You know, yeah, that in itself is impressive. You know. But
Doesn't have anything to do with his bass
it
playing.
has nothing to do with that, but he actually is pretty good if you listen to some of the things that he does. You
Yeah,
know,
I've heard that he's a very good improvisational bass player.
Mhm.
Like if he knows the groove or the chord structure of what you're about to play, then he's good at just following along. And I heard one time that he was playing with someone that he really respected, some musician.
Okay.
Asked him to play bass with them. And
Oh, that was me.
Oh, that was
Yeah, that was me.
So not
Yeah.
only are you the homeless
So,
guy in Seattle, but you're the
well, yeah, that's
you're the
how we
famous
met. I was
musician.
just like,
that-
get off my blanket. Get off my blanket. He's like, but I'm cold. I'm like, that's because you're naked. All right. How about you put some clothes on when you're playing the bass? So we got together after that, and yeah, and now we're here sitting here talking about it. And I didn't even have to bring it up. You brought it up.
But were you aware of the interview that he was talking about you in?
No, like I said, I'm not up to date on things.
Well, apparently he thinks very highly of you.
Well, that's good.
Because in the interview he was saying, I like to groove around and stuff and I'm not quoting. Let's just be clear. I like to groove around and stuff like that, but because I'm playing with Travis, I got to bring my A game.
Oh, is that
Yeah.
right?
In this interview, that's what he said.
Yeah, I'm sure that happened.
So what was it like being homeless in Seattle?
Oh, it was great, not having to pay a mortgage,
Free heroin.
You know, when you don't live with anybody, you don't have to worry about who broke things around the house because
Yeah.
you don't have one. It's just like, should I blame the kids or the wife? Yeah, well, you have neither. Like, it could have been somebody walking down the street. You know, it's very easy. You know, it takes a lot off your mind. You might not know. You know.
What was the decision point where you decided to become homeless?
The decision point where I decided.
Was it a decision or was it like a?
Well, you know, my mom told me that she wanted me to move out, you know, and I waited 2 years. So when she told me, I was about 3, I think, when that happened. So I moved out, and you know, you just kind of grow up on your own. You know? you learn things for yourself, you know.
What's one thing that you learned
That I love.
growing up homeless?
Things that I like I've got these new corduroy pillows. Have you heard of them? Mm-mm. They're making headlines, but you didn't get that joke.
No. Oh.
Okay, there we
Lines
go.
in the head.
Yeah. So
Wow.
when you appreciate, you know, your life being one dad joke after another, that's I think that's the best thing you can learn.
It's not
so-
even that funny. It's just that.
For our viewers and our listeners, if you haven't caught on, Travis has got jokes for days, and he's the king of puns. So if you have any better puns, put them in the description,
please,
or put
please.
them in the comments, please.
And I will rip them off. All 16 of you probably ain't got ish on me, but you know, you're not gonna have anything after that either. You know, I collect them worse than Pokemon. You know.
So normally these episodes, depending on how much time it takes me to edit it outside of like regular stuff that I gotta do, normally these episodes come out on Wednesdays.
Oh, I didn't know you had a day that you put them out.
Wednesdays.
Yeah, I mean,
Wednesdays.
typically it comes out on a Wednesday.
You know, I
even
like
though-
Wednesday.
You do like Wednesday.
I do.
Yeah.
Especially when it's not raining.
You like Wednesday when it's not raining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a dry hump day. Look,
He hits me
he's
with it
about to
every
die.
Wednesday.
I hit him with that joke every Wednesday, and just the smile of disappointment, I guess, is what you would consider it. When it's just like, you know, it's like giving somebody else. Like I'm pretty sure I invented, like not really, I invented this. I think my mom invented it. It's called the punch hug. You know what that is? It's like where you want to punch somebody so bad, it's just like, oh, and then you just hug them. It's like, I love and hate you at the same time, you know, kind of thing. It's called a punch hug. You know?
Wait, you invented it or your mom?
I'm pretty sure my mom did. I'm
Oh,
pretty
wow.
sure my mom did.
Because
you know?
of you?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
You know, because I'm, you know, I was fairly quick-witted as a kid, and I was always, you know, kind of joking around. It's a good way to meet people, you know, but.
Punch hugs.
Yeah.
Punch
yeah. when your mom's not like, well, she's trying to yell at you or something like that.
And then you make a joke and she wants to laugh. But
Yeah, she wants to
punch
kill you at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't even know what that's like. I mean, I don't know what it's like to be a mom. In
Me
general.
either.
Yeah.
Me either. I have no idea. But yeah.
I've met a few moms.
I think what initiated that was one time we got in an argument, and I can't remember what it was about. I have no idea. But it was probably about me being a smart ass, right?
Okay.
You know, so we're sitting there, and she's like, you know what? You're just a smart ass son of a bitch. And I just started smiling. And I was just like, you just called me a son of a bitch. And I'm sitting here just smiling, being like, I won. I won. I got it. Yeah. It was like, you insulted yourself. Way to go. You know? You get it? You know, and then
It took me a minute.
Yeah. So I've got this weird, creepy Joker smile just going, you know, just put a smile on that face kind of thing. So
How did she react?
I think she'd probably beat the shit out of me. Probably. It's probably what happened.
You guys have a good relationship now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you feel like you get your sense of humor from her?
No.
No?
No. No, I don't.
Just acquired
she's-
from being homeless in Seattle?
Yeah, I think that's really what did it. I don't know where it came from. Because I think it came from, so I was actually shy as a child. A lot of people don't get that. Yeah, see, you see that? Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. You know, so I had to, I had to go to the counselor and stuff like that because of how shy I was and stuff like that. So eventually, she was really funny, and I would open up to her like that. And I think
The counselor was?
Yeah, she was really funny, and I think that's what I utilized, and you have her to blame.
Your counselor.
Well,
Yeah, you can blame her.
I'm going to. I'm
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
find her.
I feel like we're all benefiting from that counselor.
Yeah.
Because I mean, our lives would be 95% less punful.
Yeah, 95%. Yeah.
Less punny.
Well, that's good because 99 times out of 10, it's like people figure out I'm bad at math. You know? So I'm glad you brought that up.
I'm sorry.
But where are we going with this?
I'm
You
not
asked
sure
for
if we-
this. You knew I was going to stop doing
Yeah,
it.
I'm not sure we had a direction necessarily, but I mean that's perfect. So, all right. So far, what we know about Travis is that he grew up homeless in Seattle, kicked out at the age of 3.
Yeah.
We have
And
his
then
counselor to blame for
At
his
some
puns.
point, found funding to see a counselor for being shy
Yeah.
on the streets of Seattle.
Yeah.
And then the counselor told him jokes, and he thought that was very endearing.
Yeah.
And now he tells jokes and plays the bass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also played in a punk band.
Yeah. I like punk music. I like,
What was the name of your punk band?
Hopeless.
Hopeless?
Yeah.
Hopeless.
Yeah.
Do you think that a lot of punk bands have that,
It's
like that
very
naming scheme? Like there's
foreboding.
what Rancid, Sex Pistols, Hopeless, Bowl Full of Kittens.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Seattle
yeah.
on
Well, I
Fire.
wanted to call it the piss flavored socks, but nobody wanted to do that.
See,
Like,
now
not
that's
a very
that to
attractive
me
name.
is a punk band
punk
name.
band name.
Yeah,
I'm like, it
piss
fits
flavored
the
socks.
bill,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
If you're going to be in a pop band, you just make up a false first name and last name. When you do a punk band, it's supposed to sound something crazy, you know. Or,
Yeah, I'd make mine like Automobile on Fire or something like
yeah,
that. You know?
yeah.
We're at the 2-minute warning.
2-minute warning.
Yeah,
all right,
yeah.
all right.
So, final thoughts, starting with Bruce.
Well, as you can see, I've drank 4 different styles of beer here. Those
Okay.
are my final thoughts.
What's the final beer that you're
This is a pale ale, so I drank it earlier. I think I drank it during the second
Monkey?
segment.
Yeah.
It's a Powder Monkey Pale Ale from Heavy Seas.
That always helps. If you're in the business of making beer and you put pirates on that thing, it's gonna
like,
sell.
like hotcakes, man.
Yeah.
Like, and anchors too.
Anchors
like,
work as well. Yeah.
Pirate themed anything and anchors. I will, if it's on a beer, I will buy it.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
no other reason than pirates like beer. I like beer. They must know what they're doing.
Yeah, obvious. You know.
Well, my only final thoughts are that I think that humor is like, well, the human condition is something that we talk about a lot on this podcast, and humor is like better than most things at like getting through things that are hard.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, yeah. Everything's laughable.
Yeah.
Like that's comedy anyway. It's just tragedy plus time. You know.
Tragedy
Yeah.
plus time.
Yeah.
Tragedy.
Yeah.
That should be an equation.
Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah. Any final thoughts for you?
I think I've wasted enough of your time with my thoughts. No, not really. I'm like, just, it was a good time hanging out. I'm like, we hang out anyway, but
Yeah.
what goes on YouTube stays forever, you know.
That's right.
That's true. Yeah, cool. So, subscribe, like,
And hit
with
the
a
bell.
minimal effort.
The
What's the
bell.
thing with the bell? I don't even know.
It gives you alerts, so you'll subscribe.
Oh yeah, when we put up a new video, it'll pop up.
And it has a bell ringing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know.
I don't
I didn't know that until you told me.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
hit the bell right next to the
We're new
subscribe
at this.
button. This is the minimal effort. I'm Bruce. This is George, and we had Travis today. Be well.